Your dreams will come true if your mind isn't glued to the fact that life is so blue. Hi there, it's Sandy and AnaLynne here, and we'd like to welcome you to the Sandy and Friends podcast. So today we are with Rich Dart, so welcome.
Hello.
So how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Me? I'm fantastic. I'm talking to you.
Cool.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions for you. And by we, she means I have a lot of questions for you. Right?
Okay, I hope I can answer them all.
I hope so too. So for those who are just seeing you for the first time, which I'm sure everybody that's watching knows you, but what instruments do you play?
Well, I'm primarily a percussionist. And some people have no idea what percussion means. So percussionist, most people know them as drummers, but percussionists are more than just drummers. We play all the instruments in the percussion family, which includes drums, xylophone, marimba, glockenspiel, anything you hit, tambourines, panderos, timpani, all that stuff, all that fun stuff.
Wow, that sounds really complicated. You learned all that? I can't believe you learned all of those instruments. It's pretty wild.
Oh, it's not that exciting.
If
I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's my total philosophy.
So what initially drew you to music?
Well, music was surrounding me my whole life. I've had relatives who were musicians. I have an uncle who played in cover bands and in doo-wop groups. I had a great uncle who played trumpet in big bands. My father always had music playing on the stereo constantly. I've been a record collector since before I can remember. I've always had a record player. There's a picture of me at 3 years old sitting on the edge of my bed with a little tiny guitar with my record player on the floor next to me. And I've just always been around it. So it's always been a part of my life.
Oh, wow. So who's been your greatest influence regarding music?
That's a big question. So I have a lot of different influences in different areas of music. One of the biggest influences in my life was a teacher of mine named Nancy Zeltzman, who is a marimba player. She's one of the world's top marimba players. And I studied with her when I was in my 20s. And she just was an amazing teacher, taught me so much, not just about playing the marimba, but being a musician in general. So that was a big influence. Elvis Presley was a huge influence on me. I don't remember a time in my life when Elvis was not a part of it. My parents were big fans. My family were huge fans. And so Elvis was a big influence. You could say the Monkees were a big influence because I watched them on television when I was a kid. And obviously the Beatles, because they influenced everybody. So yeah, and then the list of drummers that have influenced me could go on forever, so I'll spare you.
Well, I can tell you that you influenced me. I play the drums.
You don't? You?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
I do. Okay, well, moving on. So how long have you been into, whether it's been drumming or just percussion?
Well, technically, I started playing when I was in the 5th grade. So how old are you when you're in the 5th grade? I don't know. Let's see. Whatever age you are in 5th grade. That's when I technically started taking lessons and playing. But before that, I would just hit on anything. My parents told me that, like every other little kid, I would pull out pots and pans and bang on them. The only difference is I would play rhythms, like
oh wow,
actual rhythmic. It had actual rhythmic feel to it. It wasn't just clang, 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 clang. There were actual rhythms to it. So
you would just pull out anything and just bang on it? I'd imagine there's a lot of broken glass.
No, it wasn't like that. Didn't break any windows. Not playing drums on them. I did break a window with a ball once, but that was completely different.
Something tells me that didn't have anything to do with your interest in percussion.
No.
So what groups have you played with?
The big names that people know me for are the Monkees. Mickey Dolenz is a solo artist. I've played, I've played with a rockabilly singer named Rosie Flores, who's kind of legendary in her field. I played with a blues legend named Greg Piccolo, who's famous for being one half of the team that started Roomful of Blues, which is a legendary blues group that backed everybody in the day. I've played on Broadway for the show Avenue Q. I toured with Avenue Q. I played in a production of Pippin, toured with Pippin, and I'm trying to think who else. Actually, I used to play with a guy named Mark Pender, who is a trumpet player. Most people know him best as the trumpet player on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. And he had his own outfit, and I was the percussionist in that group for a little while.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, basically anybody who calls me, I play with. So those
you're starting a band now.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll have a call shortly.
Yeah, those are the big names. And then, smaller names. I play with a group called the Zambonis, which are kind of moderately famous. They're a hockey band. They do songs all about hockey. I've been in a band called Cream Corn since I was in my 20s. We kind of had an internet cult following for a while. I play with a singer named Shelly Velasquez, who's a pretty good original artist. Yeah, I mean, I could be here all day going on, but
that is so cool. You've played with so many people. Goodness.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with the Monkees?
How did I get involved with the Monkees? Good question. So there's a theater. I live in Connecticut, and in Connecticut, there's a very famous theater called the Goodspeed Opera House. And the Goodspeed Opera House is famous for what they call auditioning shows for Broadway. So they'll put on all these productions during the year, and at least one or two of them are shows that are new and that are trying to get to Broadway. So they'll try the shows out at Goodspeed, and if they like it, then it'll move on to Broadway. Its most famous show that came out of Goodspeed was Annie.
Oh,
that started at Goodspeed. What else started at Goodspeed? Shake, Rattle, and Roll, the Stephen Aremus project, that came out of Goodspeed. A couple others. But anyway, I was working at the Goodspeed Theater as one of the musicians. And a production of Pippin, which I talked about earlier, came through. And in the role of King Charlemagne was Mickey Dolenz. So what happened was, I'm not what you call the first call player. So the first call player is the guy that is pretty much the player that's always there. And when he can't do it, he calls a sub. So I was the sub for Pippin. And what happened was the first call player was going to be gone for probably half of that run. So they needed a sub that was going to be able to be for most of the shows. So that's what happened. Then they took the show on the road, and they can't take the first call player because he's contracted with the Goodspeed Opera House. So they asked me to do the show, the tour, and I did. And while on tour, Mickey and I got to be really, really good friends. We would go out every night, see live music after the show, we'd hang out. And that led to Mickey asking me to be in his band, which led Mickey's band to become the Monkees backing band.
Oh my goodness. Wow, you are a monkey. That's pretty cool.
You could say that.
That's an interesting sentence, though. So, you want to ask him something, AnaLynne? All right, yeah, okay. What was your favorite memory from performing?
My favorite memory from performing? That's a great question. Wow.
Thank you. Goodness.
You're welcome. I have tons of them.
Let's hear it.
Let's see. Well, one of the coolest gigs I ever did was a production at the Yale Repertoire Theater of Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors. And right away you're thinking, okay, how does percussion play into a Comedy of Errors? So the production was put on by this brilliant director named Kenneth Albers, who has since passed on, but he was brilliant. And he had this idea of setting the Comedy of Errors in a Looney Tunes type setting. So there was a lot of sight gags. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Comedy of Errors or not, but it's loaded with a lot of comedy, hence the name Comedy of Errors. And there's a lot of stuff that can be extracted from Shakespeare's work that makes it hilarious. Ken Albers took that and exemplified it by 1,000 and went for, like, you know, real slapstick humor and stuff like that. So what he wanted was basically what they call a Foley artist. And a Foley artist is a sound effects man. So he wanted somebody to provide the sound effects for all the slapstick humor that was going on. In addition, there was a musical score that relied heavily on percussion. So he wanted somebody that could play both the musical score and be the Foley artist. And also be able to have some kind of acting ability, because you're going to be on stage the whole time.
Right.
So one of my big influences, I forgot to mention this earlier, is a guy named Spike Jones. I don't know if you know who Spike Jones was or not. You would love him, Sandy. Spike Jones was a band leader in the 40s. And he's kind of like Weird Al Yankovic is today. He would take popular songs of the day and make parodies out of them. But a lot of the times he would take classical music and make parodies out of classical music. And he did that by putting in some bizarre percussion and sight gags. So instead of a regular xylophone, he would have pitched cowbells, and he would play those parts on the cowbells. So, you know, like, think of a famous classical melody, he's playing it on cowbells, which automatically makes it hilarious.
Yes.
So when there were interviews for this gig, this job, I went to the director and I said, I'm here because there was a call for a percussionist, and I would love to be a part of this. He said, well, let me explain what's going to happen. And he's trying to explain everything I just explained, how it's going to be slapstick humor and I was going to provide some, and he's having a hard time. And finally, Ken said, all right, do you know who Spike Jones is? And I said, he's one of my heroes. And Ken Albers looked at me and said, you're hired.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so that is actually one of my favorite gigs I've ever played. I was pretty much given leeway to go in and play whatever I wanted. I used tons of instruments. I was in this little room on the second floor of a building on the stage. I was the merchant of music because it was set in a Persian market. And I was surrounded by all of my instruments. And I think I played every single thing I own in that setting. But it was to me my favorite gig that I've ever played, because I got to write my own part. I got to be Spike Jones for a couple months, and I got reviewed by the New York Times in a positive way. So how cool is that? You know, they called me a remarkable percussionist.
Well, you are. That sounds like a ton of fun, I gotta say.
It was a blast. I went to, so the composer on that was a guy named Stephen Tanner, who's still around. And him and I did go into the studio afterwards to try to record the music that we created for the show. And we never finished it, but it's out there somewhere.
I'd imagine it being a lot of fun to listen to.
It was great. And most of it was samples, like most pop music is today. It was all samples. And then I provided all the percussion parts live. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite venue? And if you say something on Long Island, you get extra points.
Ah, well, see, that's the thing with me. Because I'm old, I forget things. I remember venues when I'm there. But if you told me, oh, you played this theater, I would be like, I don't remember, because I've played so many places. I've played, let's see, I've performed in every state except Hawaii and Alaska.
Oh my goodness.
And then I've performed overseas in England and in Scotland, all over there. And I've played in Australia and New Zealand. So they kind of all blend together until I walk into the door. And then I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm kind of biased in that one of my favorite places to play is the Mohegan Sun Arena because it's near me. But it's just a phenomenal place to play. It's one of the greatest places I've played. But to me, any place I play is awesome because I get to play music, and that's cool.
Oh, that's so great.
A lame answer, but you know.
No, but music is really fantastic, and I love seeing you on stage. When I got to see you, I could see the amount of fun that you were having playing the drums. It was really awesome.
Thanks. I love it. Even if I'm playing stuff that I normally would hate, like I believe it or not, I play a lot of Grateful Dead stuff when I play with like local bands and stuff like that, and I hate the Grateful Dead. They are like just horrible to me, but I enjoy playing, you know, music. So even if I'm playing a Grateful Dead song that normally I wouldn't listen to in a million years, I'm still having fun.
Let's just make sure that this interview doesn't get to them.
Now they know. I played for a while in a band called the Grateful Friends, which was pretty much a Grateful Dead cover band. And they all knew I hated the Dead.
That's very interesting.
By the way, I own every single album that you have behind you.
You do?
I do.
Wow.
And I've probably owned them longer than you've been alive. Except
it's been longer than 14 years, and yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I have the original release of Missing Links. I have the original release of the Arista Greatest Hits. Yeah, I have all those. I bought High Fidelity when it came out. Yeah.
I love that album. Oh my goodness, REO Speedwagon is fantastic. Here, you can ask him the last question. Okay, all right. What is your favorite part about performing?
My favorite part about performing is that I get to do it. Period. I just love it. And even if I'm performing for one person, it's just as exciting for me as if I'm performing for, you know, thousands. I love playing music. I love performing. There's something that happens to you when you're performing that I can't explain. It's a high that you can never replicate with any drug. Which is why I don't do drugs, by the way. And it's just, there's nothing better. It's really, really an awesome feeling to be able to play music and performing in general. So like, I'll give you a really bizarre example of a gig I have coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be playing at a salt cave / massage spa. And I'm going to be playing marimba, but I'm going to be playing in the lobby as people are walking in and out. So I'm kind of background music. So no one's really going to be paying any attention to me, which is awesome in its own right, because I can do whatever I want. I'm not under pressure to walk out on stage and play all these marimba pieces perfectly. I can, you know, be relaxed and comfortable and do my thing, but I'm super excited about it. And I'm really looking forward to it because I don't often get to perform on marimba. And now that I'm performing on marimba, I get to do whatever I want, and it's going to be awesome.
Wow, yeah, that sounds great. Again, I really see your connection with music when I've seen you play in videos and just live, so that's really fantastic.
Yeah, I love playing, period. If I don't play, you can ask my wife this, I get extremely depressed.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's kind of like a life force for me. If I'm not playing, it's rough for the Dark family. will keep playing. Yes, I'll take that advice.
That's good. Well, you are just fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for doing this interview with me.
Oh, thanks for asking me. This was a pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Your dreams will come true if your mind isn't glued to the fact that life is so blue.